The new season of Ranked has started, and you want to know what deck should you be using to grind to hit Master Ball. Well, I'm going to show you all of the best decks in the meta right now, and I'm also going to show you the matchups for all of them. So you know when you pick a deck, what is it that you're targeting? Maybe if you're hitting too much of a certain deck, you know what deck to swap to in order to counter it. Now we're going to go in pseudo order. I'm going to try to do like what I think are the best decks first, and then sort of as we go on, get into some of the lower tier decks. This is the first one. It's going to be Suicune Greninja. Still the best deck in the format. This deck is so far above pretty much anything else. Even its counters, it can beat without much problem. Suicune doesn't have a whole lot of truly abysmal matchups, and that is because you have all of the draw power at your hands, all of these tools that if you play well, you can take down pretty much anything. Obviously, the biggest problem for this deck is Darkai Giratina. And a way that some players get around the Darkai Giratina is really the Oricorio. It's kind of your best option because you are able to put the Oricorio in the active spot and act as a wall that your opponent cannot get through. It just adds a little bit to that matchup. The matchup isn't terrible, as you'll see, but it definitely isn't good. Some cards that you might want to consider for this deck are Inflatable Raft. That allows that if you start with Froakie, you can just slap the Inflatable Raft on and retreat for free. Leaf is another good option as well for a pivot. We really don't see decks running X-Speed, and we really don't see Suicune Greninjas running double Cyrus anymore. It's usually just that one copy of Cyrus, because that kind of does it. The flex spots for this deck are really the Oricorio and the Repel. Everything else is sort of solved. Like, these are the best counts for the deck. At least they have been. So if you ever want to try one of those cards that I just mentioned, maybe take out the Oricorio, maybe take out the Repel. The Oricorio is probably the most flex thing that you have there. Like, you can still beat Darktina. It's just going to improve the matchup just a little bit for you. The Repel is very, very good, especially into the mirror, right? You don't want to just think about Darktina. You want to think, all right, I need to get through the mirror as well because I'm going to be seeing a lot of Suicune on ladder, and the Repel really helps. If your opponent starts Suicune, you can use the Repel, throw it to the bench, and unless they have a retreat that turn, they're going to have to waste an energy attachment, which is very not good for Suicune. So let's head over. Let's take a look at the matchups. Here we are on the matchup spread, and I threw in some extra ones because I want you guys to understand something. Look up here in the favored. I put the Alolan Exeggutor deck. Why? Because this deck, when it came out, it was like, oh, this is going to be a good way to counter Suicune. It's not. It never has been. The deck has been bad, and I've been preaching it since the first time I played it. The deck is horrible. Do not play Exeggutor. It is literally, like, I wish I had a category just for Exeggutor on how good the matchup is for Suicune. It's like 70% favored for Suicune. It's just not a good deck. Buzzwole as well. Buzzwole has a actually decent matchup spread, but into Suicune, no. You're not having a good time. Another one that is slightly misleading for people is the Coco Oricorio deck. Right there in the middle, I have it at even. It is by no means a free matchup. Like, as far as counters go to Suicune, it really isn't. It's just a deck that has a decent matchup into it. You know, it's pretty even. If things go well for Suicune, you can be in a lot of trouble. The Coco just doesn't put out quite enough damage and doesn't have a whole lot of HP. So if you go first into the Suicune, things get really bad for you because you're behind an attachment. You're not doing a lot of meaningful damage. You can even use that Tapu Koko first attack, and your opponent can just Irida, or even if they throw a cape on it and you don't have a damage modifier, you're not knocking out that active Suicune with your second attack. It's pretty ridiculous. It is not a great matchup for you by any means, but it's not a bad deck. Taking a look at all the other stuff, the best like counter that has come out, honestly, is the Decidueye deck. It sits between, like, it's in the unfavored. It sits between like 40 to 45% for Suicune. It's gonna have a 40 to 45% matchup into the Decidueye, so it's not totally the worst. Like, if you're playing a heavy, maybe you're playing a red card Mars build into the Decidueye, if that's the kind of list that you're running, you're probably gonna have a bit of a better time against Decidueye. And also, just a tip for the Suicune players, I say this as a Decidueye player, you either need to, and preferably, bench 2 Froakie at once, well, this isn't the preferred one. You can bench 2 Froakies at once, so if Decidueye uses its 70 snipe attack to knock one out, but ideally what you want to do is you want to bench that Froakie, and you want to throw a giant cape on it when you do bench it, because as a Decidueye player, I love getting that free point. I'm going to take priority to get that free point every single time. If there's a way that you can still get a Greninja out, or I'm going to be poking the Greninja for 70, or the Froakie for 70, and it's still not going to get knocked out, that feels terrible to me. You know, that's how you really lose the matchup if they set up, is by giving them a free point on a Froakie. You really want to make the Decidueye work for their points. If you're not doing that, then things don't go great for you. I have Silvally or Choreo there and slightly unfavored as well. That should just be Silvally Zeraora. Some of them run one Aura Choreo, some of them run none. It just depends on the list. It's much more of a Silvally Zeraora list than that. So if you're Suicune, this is what you're looking for. You can also use this if you hate Suicune, you know what's going to play better into it. But we're going to go through the rest of the meta right now, and I'll show you some other decks, some other options you got. Next up, we have Darkrai Giratina. I'm not really going to spend a whole lot of time on this. It's Darkrai Giratina. You should know by now what the deck does. If you're a newer player, Giratina and Darkrai work in tandem. They are both able to separately charge themselves up. Giratina with its ability, Darkrai from your manual attachments, you just play Dark Energy, and you have a whole bunch of supporter cards that really just boost the power of these two basic Pokemon. So it's a very it's a simple deck, like looking at it, to play. It's not, I mean, there are people who have been playing Darkrai Giratina for months that could run laps around me in a Darkrai Giratina mirror match, or even just on ladder, like for sure. You know, I am not a Darkrai Giratina player. I really never have been, so the deck is a bit of a mystery to me. I'd have to put some time into really get good with the deck, and I don't have any interest in doing it, to be honest. But let's take a look at the matchups. Why is Darkrai Giratina the second best deck? Why is it so good? Well, it has a really good Suicune matchup. It does take some bad matchups to some other things. This Decidueye matchup, this is what the data says, I am going to put it up here. I'm not kidding. I've played a lot of Decidueye. I know how to play Decidueye. I do not see a way that Decidueye really ever beats Darkrai Giratina. They have Darkrai Giratina, as you saw, has red card, has silver, has Mars, whatever it wants to disrupt you. And unless you get an instant Decidueye EX, even then it's still really difficult. So I don't think the matchup is great at all. The data, I think, is lying. Again, good Suicune matchup. Good matchup into some of these other things, and then even the bad matchups are not unwinnable. This Arceus Darkrai, you know, he's kind of gonna run you off the board for sure. And if you're wondering, you know, what other cards can you play in Darkrai Giratina, especially if you're starting out, there's really no wrong answer, because you have so much space and so much will work for Darkrai Giratina. What you're really gonna want is you're gonna want to make sure you have the Research, the Leaf, the Cyrus, the Red, and then some other things are not really changeable. Like, you do want all of these cards that are in here. It's just if you don't have them, or maybe some other card works better for you, then you could totally swap them. But like Research, Leaf, Red, probably Pokemon Center Lady, and Cyrus are really important. Repel can also just be a Sabrina. Maybe you have a full art Sabrina and you want to flex it, so you run that instead of Repel, whatever. Also, Giant Cape is another option. This list only played 2 Rocky Helmet, but typically Darkrai Giratina plays at least 1 Giant Cape. I'm not sure. This is a first place list, so obviously it did quite well. But usually they run a Giant Cape. And yeah, so that's another option for you to consider. I really want to be a good YouTuber, so here is the government mandated YouTuber begging section. Please subscribe to the channel if you enjoy what I'm doing. I try to put a little bit more work into these videos, just giving you matchup spreads, my complete thoughts. So when you're playing Pokemon Pocket, you're going in with the best knowledge that you can. You're making factual, statistically driven decisions playing ranked and picking your deck. And also, I live stream quite a bit, so you can come and you can hang out, you can see how I play certain decks, learn some matchups with me. It's a great time. All right, that's it. Government mandated YouTuber begging section is over. I hope you subscribed, please. Okay, back to the video. Now for our third most popular deck going around right now, it is just the Guzzlord deck. And I gotta say, it is a ton of fun and has a really good matchup spread going into this meta. I really love the deck. This is a recent, I believe, tournament winning list. It's not too dissimilar from the list that I play. I do really like myself. I like the 2 will count. I like ensuring that my grind cores are going to be very, very annoying for my opponent. I also agree with 1 Cyrus, 1 Repel, 1 Pokemon Center Lady, and 1 Potion. Wow. Have both been fine for the amount of heal I need. The only thing I disagree with on this list is 1 Lusamine. I think 1 Lusamine is sort of throwing because you typically want the Lusamine after being Marsed. And if you only have 1, it's really hard to play down cards in this deck and get all the way through your deck, right? Because if you have red in your hand, well, you're holding the red for when you need it. You're holding the Guzma for when your opponent plays down a tool card. You're holding the Cyrus. Like, you're usually holding a lot of these supporters, and it's not uncommon that when your opponent Marses you, you still have like 8 cards left in your deck. You know, you're not aggressively playing through your deck like some of these other lists. So I would not run 1 Lusamine. I know it did very well, but just for me and how RNG best of 1 can be on the rank ladder, I wouldn't trust just 1 Lusamine in this list. I would make a cut somewhere. I'm trying to think of where my list differs. I might not play the Guzma. Guzma is still a tough cut. This list has a lot of good stuff in it, but yeah, the 1 Lusamine I just don't agree with. So let's head over. Let's take a look at the matchup chart and see why this deck is so popular. It has again, this is a Suicune counter, but it's really just an even Suicune matchup because they are able, if they're smart, they will put that Suicune in the active spot, they will leave it there, and they will look to set up double Greninja, 1 Giratina. It's really, really hard for Guzzlord to deal with that, and I guess that's what the Guzma is for. I don't believe I play Guzma in my list. I think that's what it is. The Guzma can help that out a little bit, because what you typically see with Suicune, if the opponent is playing it right, they will go for double Froakie, 1 Giratina. Giratina on the bench, add a giant cape, put all of the energy onto the Giratina. Get that Giratina up to like 6 energy by the time it's attacking, and really only attach the Suicune if you want to Irida to make the Suicune just live another turn, but otherwise you're going double Greninja, 1 Giratina, and that way once the Giratina can come up, you can't really grind core the energy off, and you can use double Greninja ping plus Giratina attack because it has that giant cape. Guzzlord is not going to get a return knockout, and you can use the Giratina to take knockouts on double Guzzlord or Guzzlord plus Celesteela and win yourself the game. Anyways, that's why the matchup is like not all that good, because if the Suicune player knows what they're doing, they can make it really hard for you, and it really just depends on them misplaying or you getting some really good grind cores in, or just them not finding it, right? It isn't the easiest thing in the world to get Giratina down really fast and work your way up to 2 Greninjas. It's not the easiest thing in the world, but it can happen. It does happen. I've played many games with Guzzlord as well, and that is a common thing. Unfavored for you are just really the Tapu Koko Oricorio stuff. You don't really have a great way of dealing with Oricorio. Your best way is the Celesteela, but it is hard to pull together that Celesteela with 3 energy plus the will to guarantee the knockout on it. It just doesn't always work out for you. And then Darkrai Giratina, I don't know that there's much you can really do to improve the Darkrai Giratina matchup. I'm sure Guzzlord helps as well because you will take off the Rocky Helmet or Giant Cape if they're running it. But other than that, like it's still not great. A matchup I do not agree with seeing here is the Arceus Darkrai variant being so high up. This deck, and same Arceus Darkrai and Silvally Oricorio / Zeraora. Again, I've played a lot of Guzzlord. Something that Guzzlord hates is your opponent getting down a ton of energy, or not a ton of energy, being able to rush you down with a big attack that you just can't possibly live 2 hits of, or even getting 1 shot, right? Like Arceus EX, that deck can hit 170. A Darkrai Ping plus a red is going to let them one-shot a Guzzlord. Silvally, they're hitting for 100 damage, 100 damage, 100 damage. If your grind cores don't go well, you're just going to lose that matchup. So I do not agree with the data on these, to be honest. Like, from my own personal experiences playing these games, Decidueye, I absolutely agree with. That matchup sucks for Decidueye. Like, they need to look to bench the benched Rowlet as well and build that one up and kind of ignore the one in the active spot, or just hope that the grind cores don't go that well. It's not great for you. Flareon, I also agree, because Flareon can't really get up to 170. You can grind core and set the Flareon down to 0 energy after they've attacked, and then they're stuck there, or they have to waste their attachment to retreat it. And then Espeon, Sylveon, you're hitting them for weakness. If they attack into the Rocky Helmet on your Guzzlord, then you just get to one-shot them in return. So besides those two, those are the only ones I really don't agree with. I feel like this Silvally's Aura deck does not go great for you all the time, and this Arceus one definitely doesn't. But yeah, Guzzlord is super, super fun to play. The most important thing is that your Suicune matchup is even, and if they are not playing the matchup correctly, then it will be even better than even. Now, our fourth most popular deck, it's sort of started to fall off a little bit. It might not even be the fourth most popular anymore, but this is a deck that I have a lot of experience with, and that's Flareon EX. And this deck was really, really good at the start of the format, which is the same as last month's format, so I'm talking, 2 or 3 weeks ago. Suicune players eventually started to figure out the matchup. When Suicune players didn't know what they were doing, I was farming them with this deck, and once they did figure it out, things sort of got a little bit worse. So how this list differs from my own personal list is I do not run the Repel, I run double Sylveon, just because I like to be able to really extend with Sylveon and kind of guarantee on the back end of a red card, or a Mars, that I'm going to have a Sylveon and be able to draw cards to try to find red or whatever it is I need that turn to pull off a knockout. Even in the early game, it's pretty good to reach for that. But that's about it. Repel might be necessary now, though, honestly, because, again, Suicune was a fine matchup, and then they sort of figured out how to play it. So the Repel might just be necessary, and you might just have to hope that you find the Sylveon naturally and are able to piece together what it is that you need, because the current list is not working against Suicune all that well. A Repel would be very, very helpful in that matchup. But let's take a look at the matchup spread. And it's kind of funny because the matchup spread is like amazing. Just the Suicune matchup is really not fantastic for you. And the problem is that there's so much Suicune going around that, like, having an unfavored Suicune matchup can kind of be a death sentence in this format. Look at everything else, though. Like, everything else is either slightly favored or just straight up favored in the usual meta. And then you only have Guzzlord, which is a very, very popular deck right now. You do not do good into that at all, and you don't do great into Suicune anymore. So that's sort of why Flareon has fallen off a bit. If you're not seeing Suicune or Guzzlord, you can run Flareon and you can gain a ton of points with the deck, because most other decks you're going to run into are just really good for you. And even this Arceus Darkrai matchup, I'll put you guys on game. The way that you want to play this is you want to use the baby EVEX to get that first point on your opponent's baby Pokemon, but you want to do it after you have gotten 1 energy on EVEX and 1 energy on another Eevee. So that way, EVEX can go up, take that point. You have now forced the 2 Prizer Arceus into the active spot, and then it's on you to get into the Flareon and get the red plus maybe Eevee bag to take the knockout. This game goes very, very fast. If they're not a Mars build, you're pretty favored into it because they're not going to have a way to disrupt you out of that Flareon EX follow-up, but it really does end in just like a couple of turns. There's not much more to that matchup. You just want to make sure that you are taking the first point. You don't want to let your Magby get knocked out by Darkrai EX, because that will set you back pretty hard. But yeah, you could just sort of force a really fast game from them and either gain 10 or lose 10. That's typically the way that I play it, and it usually works out in my favor because it's not all that often that they'll have the Mars in hand off the bat. But if they do, then you can hope that you have Sylveon or something to draw out of it. And especially if they're playing Mars, then they're probably only playing one giant cape, and then all you need is an EV bag to get that knockout on the Arceus. So a lot needs to go right for them, not as much needs to go right for you. So I don't really agree that it's slightly unfavored. I think if anything, it's a pretty even matchup. Next, we're going to talk about Buzzwole, just because I think it's sort of similar to Flareon EX as far as matchups go, but it has some really worse things going for it. So this is a list. Now, I personally play it different. I've been playing a bit of Buzzwole today. I really don't love not having a red in here. I think red is pretty good if you're able to get all the energy you want onto the Buzzwole manually, or even with Pheromosa, you can use that red to get plus 20 damage, and that can be really important in Darkai matchups, Darkai Giratina matchup, Suicune matchups. I really like the red in here, and I also really like the Rocky Helmet because Suicune's going to be healing so much, but it might just be that that matchup is so bad that we don't even want to touch it. There are a lot of different ways to play Buzzwole. Again, like flex cards are, some lists play 2 Erica, don't play the Guzma. Instead of Guzma, play a red, play a Leaf Cape instead of a Giant Cape, and just don't play the Rocky Helmet at all. I don't really see Sabrinas or Repels in these lists. For the most part, this is pretty standard. And here's the matchup spread for it. So you take like abysmal matchups to some pretty popular decks right now. Suicune is like all the way down here. It is legit, I don't know, 25% matchup. It is so bad. It is really terrible. And I don't know how to fix it without, you know, turning your deck into just a Suicune hate deck, and that might not even be enough. Like, some ideas I've had are Rocky Helmets, so they take the 20 back, Silvers to try to rip the Irida out of hand, and that way you are able to go up with Buzzwole and take that knockout, because typically you're going to be attacking with Pheromosa, and then they're just going to Irida the damage off, and it's like the Pheromosa never did anything. The matchup could go a little bit better if you were able to play it like a Guzzlord deck, but it's really hard to ask to start Buzzwole and then find other Buzzwole and just run off of those 2 Pokemon, and even that sometimes doesn't work out great, especially if you go first. So the matchup is just absolutely abysmal. Decidueye matchup is not great either. They have a lot of heal. You're not doing a whole lot of damage to them, like, comparatively. I mean, you're doing 120 to Decidueye. If they use a Lily or an Erica when they have a Leaf Cape on, they're able to live 2 hits from Buzzwole, so it's not great. And then Espeon, Sylveon, just a lot of heals. Again, your Pheromosas are kind of invalidated by the Espeon's ability. Flareon, it's a fire deck, right? It just explodes Buzzwoles. And then you have the good matchups, right? Giratina, Darkrai, Silvally is fine. Arceus Darkrai is really good for you because you can Pheromosa ping the Arceus and you get to decide when that Arceus comes into the active spot, or you could just, you know, the Pheromosa will damage it before it comes to the active, and then Buzzwole can get the revenge KO on Arceus and they don't have a backup. Guzzlord, same thing, you're hitting for weakness, and then once Buzzwole comes up, I mean, that's a 140 hit. If you're playing red, that's a 160 hit. It's going to be really hard for the Guzzlord to do anything about that. You're just the better Ultra Beast in that 1v1. Tapu Koko or Oricorio. Tapu Koko is not hard at all for Buzzwole to get rid of, and between having 2 Pheromosa and 2 Celesteela, you can effectively wall that Oricorio as well, right? Because they're only doing 50 damage. You're hitting 20 and then probably pinging another Oricorio on the bench for 20. And then if you need to, you have 2 turns to hit heads with the Celesteela to get that knockout. So not a great matchup for them at all. I really like the deck. Like, I've always loved Buzzwole. I think it's super fun to play. It's just unfortunate that because of the Suicune matchup is almost an auto loss, it's really hard to play it on ladder, especially with the Decidueyes and the Flareons going around. It's a really tough deck to justify playing on ladder. So I will play it for fun, but I know that if I start seeing Suicunes, it's time to put the deck down because there's really nothing we can do to make that matchup good for us, you know, even get it into the slightly unfavored realm. If it was in there, you could play Buzzwole a little bit more, but because it is one of the most abysmal matchup spreads I've ever seen for Buzzwole, like, it is just the hardest of hard counters. It's a really hard deck to justify playing in ranked. Now we have Darkrai, Arceus, Darkrai, Arceus Baby, or Daycare, yeah, not Arceus Baby, Arceus Daycare. And this is just a really, really fun deck to play. It's not like overly great. Its matchup spread is kind of whatever, but it's just a really fun deck. If you pop off, you're gonna destroy anyone in front of you. But the problem is that, you know, it's a little bit inconsistent. We're playing 10 basics in this deck. We got to start the Pichu. We use the Pichu to power up the Arceus, and once Arceus has 3 energy, you are free to swing for 170 if you have a full bench between the Darkrai ping and the red. That's going to knock out basically anything we're seeing in the meta right now. So it's a very, very high roll deck, but when it works, and it's a lot of fun. So if you're just looking for something fun to add to your toolkit, this is one of them. Head over to the matchup spread here. Not all the matchups are like 100% clear because there's just not enough data for them. Oh, this is supposed to be down here. This matchup is like not the most fun for you at all because Oricorios are really hard to deal with, especially when they have a backup attacker. You got to get the Kamala, and it's not easy to find the Kamala in this list. Like, you play 2 of them, but it's really not that easy. Favored, Espeon, Sylveon, Darkrai, Giratina. They just hate like how fast you are. You know, you're attacking with an Arceus really quickly and just knocking out everything in the active spot. Decidueye, same thing. They hate how fast you are. Guzzlord is like kind of fine. Again, I think from my own personal experience going against the data, Guzzlord feels a little bit more favored to me. And then Flareon EX feels like even. Silvally Oricorio feels like even. If they're not playing Oricorio, it's pretty fine for you if it's just the Zeraora build. But if they're able to get double Silvally online and they had the Silvally, like, it really depends on who goes first or second, because if they can chain attackers, you're in trouble. If they can't chain attackers, then like, even if they miss an energy for 1 turn, you're just gonna roll over them. So it's kind of coin flippy on who does what. Suicune, just super consistent. They're gonna be disrupting your hand every single turn practically, because games with this deck don't go for very long. They're pretty short games. It's a really efficient, I lose 10 points or I gain 10 points kind of deck. Buzzwole, unfavored for the reasons we just said. When we talked about Buzzwole, they are able to damage your Arceus before it comes up, and then Buzzwole can get the revenge KO on the Arceus, and you're just sort of left with nothing. Yeah, very, very fun deck. High roll for sure. If you high roll, dude, everything just goes up to 100%. Like, nothing can stop this deck when it's high rolling. It's really, really gross, unless they have an Oricorio in there to slow you down at some point. But if you're just playing a normal Suicune list, and you get the turn 1 pop off where you are able to go second, get all the energy on the Arceus, and they don't have a follow-up attacker, it'll go well for you. But Suicune can do some things like not attaching to the active Suicune, just attaching to the benched one, so that when Arceus comes up and knocks out the active Suicune, they get a revenge knockout, and then all they have to do is knock out one of the babies with like Greninja pings or Cyrus, whatever, and then they win. So it's like, it's not great. You can high roll, but if you high roll and they play really well, you can still lose that matchup. It's a bit unfortunate, but it's a super fun deck. So if you're just looking for something fun, play Arceus Darkrai. This is the deck I got most addicted to at the tail end of last format, and this is a really unique take on it. So this is Decidueye. This list is playing the double Cleffa to try to get those Pokemon out of your deck into your hand, and is only playing 2 heals, 1 Lily, 1 Erica. They're also running the How to boost the damage. I have not tried this version of the list. The version that I play is no Cleffa, double Dartrix, double Decidueye, double heals, 2 Leaf Cape, no How. I've actually replaced 1 Baby Decidueye for a Pokecom. So those are my cuts. Take out the 2 Cleffa, take out the How, add a Dartrix, add a Lily, add an Erica, and then add a red card in there as well. That's how I run my list. And I want to, before we get into the matchup spread, you'll see it's really not great. I don't think that this deck is any more than like a 52% win deck on ladder. I don't think it's great. There are a lot of things that can go wrong for you. And some of the data I don't agree with at all. Like I said when I talked about Darktina, I don't think that matchup is very good for you. Let's head over. Let's take a look. No favored matchups. Suicune is slightly favored because if they disrupt you, then you are in trouble. But if you get that first Decidueye online, like, it's like really, really hard for you to lose that matchup. If you could just get a Decidueye out, you're kind of good. And then the rest here, like, things just don't pan out so well for you with these other matchups. Silvally, like if they get Silvally on quickly and you don't get a Decidueye, they can just kind of run you over because they play Hand Disruption too because they have so much space. But it's a really, really fun deck, and I'm excited to try a variant like this. Because I want to see if there's like more to Decidueye than just the idea of like, okay, we're just going to hope that we set up Decidueye and then we're just going to keep healing it and hope that that's enough to carry us through some of these matchups. I would be really, really interested in seeing how this deck functions, and I'm definitely going to give it a try in ranked. But for the list that I play, like this is pretty accurate. It can destroy Suicunes. You can have a really, really good time with them, against them, as long as you get your hand, you get your starting hand, and you are not playing research as soon as you get it. And you're hoping to survive that red card in Mars. And if you can, and you can get into that Decidueye, things are going to go really, really well for you. Super, super, super fun deck. The options that you are given between the baby Decidueye and the big Decidueye. Another thing to note, if you are going to play Decidueye, I wanna tell you this, because I have played a lot of Decidueye, and I think this is a really cool thing that you can kind of only do with this deck, and it's sort of counterintuitive. Like usually you see this and you want to do it. You don't need to take a point like when it's available for you. So think of maybe there's a Giratina on the bench and you're playing against Suicune, and you've gotten that Giratina down to 40 HP. You do not that turn need to go take the knockout on Giratina, because what's going to happen? Your opponent's probably going to respond with a Mars and put you down to one card. What you can do instead is you can say, hey, I know that Giratina is not getting healed. If they attach their next turn and use an Irida on it, and they still have an Irida left in the deck, you might want to go get that. You probably do want to go get that Giratina, but try to prevent taking points for as long as you can, at least the 2-point knockouts, until you really have to, because a Mars really hurts this deck at the end of the game. You do not want to see that, and if you have the opportunity to put off taking those points, don't take the point. Don't take the point. You're running Pierce the Pain. You do 100 anywhere. No Cyrus required. Just anything with damage counters on it. You will get those points. If it's not a threat and it's not in range of being healed back to a point where Pierce the Pain cannot take a knockout on it, just leave it alone. And you will see a lot more success with the deck than if you had just taken those points every time they're readily available. So that's my Lotus Decidueye tip for you. Hopefully you guys enjoyed as much as I do, because I really love the deck. Now we have Silvally Zeraora, and this is an interesting list because they're playing double Team Rocket Grunt. As far as the deck goes, I have never really been a Silvally lover for like these formats. I thought it was really good when it was Silvally Rampardos. But even then, I stayed away from it because the mirror match was just abysmal. It was so unfun to play. And now we're here. Now we're here with Silvally, and we've, for the most part, most of them have gone away from Oricorio just because you're either starting type Null or you're starting Zeraora. If you start type Null, you can elemental switch up to the type Null on your second turn and just attack guaranteed with Silvally. If not, you start Zeraora, and now you have free retreat. Well, free retreat, you know, it attaches the energy to itself, so you're still able to attack on your second turn with Silvally if you went second. Yeah, there's like not much more to it. I think the biggest innovation is the double Team Rocket Grunt, just to be a miserable person. And coming over here to the matchup spread, so this is like a new form of playing the deck, relatively new, so I am not confident on any of this data. And as someone who's not played Silvally Zeraora, there is not much I can add to this conversation. So I welcome any Silvally Zeraora players in the comments to correct any of this that you see here. I'm just going with the data and then throwing in some of my opinion from the decks that I've played that like don't feel quite right for what I'm seeing for the data. And again, I'm looking at, you take something like Arceus Darkrai. They've played like 8 matches in tournament. What am I supposed to do with that? You know, you're getting like, it is not concrete at all. There have not been enough games to play to really say, how does this matchup play out? But some of the better ones like Suicune and Darktina, a lot of these games have been played. This is kind of where they are, and those make sense. But most of the other things, not really. Guzzlord, Darktina, and Suicune are sort of the ones that are set in stone and make sense to me. The other ones, I don't know, man. I don't play these decks. But yeah, this is like, it's just it's a really scary deck if you get the turn 2 Silvally attack, and that's just kind of it. You hope for that. If you're able to pull that off, you are going to be terrorizing a lot of decks in format. It's just tough to deal with 100 damage on your opponent's second turn for a lot of things, and the fast setup, like Suicune can't really deal with it all that well. You're going to two-shot them through anything. They can't Irida and Giant Cape their way out of it. It's just going to be a guaranteed 2 points for you. And then you just got to worry about the last point. But yeah, that's Silvally's Aura. Play it if you want. I don't know. I don't really care for the deck. I'm really only talking about this deck because I've seen it on ladder a bunch today, just starting out in the format. And I don't really know why. Espeon Sylveon, it really took a hit because its Suicune matchup is not great, and you have the added Guzzlord and Darktina. Like, it takes a bad matchup to the 3 best decks. Let's head over here to the matchup spread. If you're looking just for, like, play rate, and you know that you take a bad matchup to the #1 most played deck, the #2 most played deck, and an abysmal matchup to the #3 most played deck, I would never touch it. I don't even know what you're hunting for on ladder if you pick up this deck. So it's really just more a courtesy from me to you to avoid this deck. I don't really see why you would play it on here, besides you really enjoy the deck, and maybe you feel that you have an edge against some of these matchups, but I don't really see it. I'm not a huge fan of it. Haven't been for this entire meta, and I've never really understood. It wasn't really played at all. It was played in the beginning and then fell off really, really hard, and might not even be seeing a resurgence. It's just I've been seeing it on ladder more than I have in the last format. Then again, I was, you know, consistently up in the top 3 to 1,000 range, so the better players were staying away from it. For good reason. And now that I'm back down in Ultra Ball 4, trying to work my way through that to get back to Master Ball, I'm seeing it more. So just letting you guys know, this is not a deck that I would seriously pursue or try to use to grind to Master Ball, because just on paper, take a look. It doesn't make sense. Because I am such a nice guy, I'm going to leave you guys with 2 treats, okay? 2 little fun decks for you to give a go. These don't have matchup data because they have just come out. They're not, like, there's not enough. There's no way for me to tell you. This is Pikachu Oricorio Zeraora with a little Pichu in there as well. You get all the babies. Or you get the full Pikachu line besides Raichu, but I don't think even Game Freak or the Pokemon Company International recognizes Raichu as a real Pokemon at this point. I think it is all just Pikachu. Pichu is barely a Pokemon to them. He is... I don't even know why they made it, man. There was no point. I guess they probably sold a lot of Pichu plushes, but Raichu definitely. They definitely don't consider Raichu a sentient being at all. Anyways, this deck seems pretty fun, right? And you got the Pikachu, and you got the big Pikachu to take huge one-shots. You have the advantage of being lightning type, even though, you know, it doesn't do a whole lot for you against Suicune. But you can look to get a really fast Pikachu setup, the Circle Circuit one, and that will get through a Suicune no problem. You're going to hit the Suicune for 110 each attack. They can't heal out of that. And then hopefully you can have enough energy in play or have set up properly so that the big Pikachu EX can take a big 150 knockout and deal with whatever is left. Double red card, 1 silver. You're just like, this is just a I hate you Suicune deck. Straight up, man. Double red card, 1 silver. Wow, what a monster. Animars. Dude, this actually looks a lot of fun. I'm gonna be playing this too. This looks great. I just got the immersive Pikachu from the new set, so I'm excited to give this a go. This seems pretty fun. I will report back. I'll probably play it on stream. Make sure you guys subscribe so you can see me live stream some funny decks. I rarely ever play Suicune or Darktina or anything like that. I usually just stick to the outskirts, the weird stuff, the terrible decks, because those are the most fun to me. Stuff like this. Double Cyrus, because, again, you're doing little damage every turn, right? In other matchups, like, you might be swinging with Zeraora for 50. And you're going to need a Cyrus to pick up those knockouts. So what a cool deck. I really like this. This seems very annoying for Suicune players. I like this quite a bit. Now, on the reverse, I have a new Suicune deck to show you guys that actually won a fairly large tournament. As far as tournaments go, they're pretty small nowadays. They're between, like, 150 to 250 people. Nothing like if you have been here since the beginning of the game. I mean, we used to regularly have a 1,000-person tournament every single week. We just don't see that anymore for the most part. Very sad. Very sad. But look at this. Suicune Palkia Gyarados. I don't know how much you're even attacking with the Palkia, to be honest. Like, it's an option for the Manaphy to get you there or close enough to there. It's probably just an additional water Pokemon that could have some value that is going to get discarded with Gyarados. Now, I played against this deck today, and it was horrifying because they started Mantike, went first, got an energy onto Suicune, was swinging with Suicune with a full bench immediately, and then they had also built up the Gyarados on the bench. So even after I took out Suicune, I had a Gyarados come up and swing for 140. Like, it is a terrifying deck. It's really scary, and I'm really glad to see that Gyarados has found a list that seems to have worked. I mean, winning a 200-person tournament is, like, that's really good. The record was really, really good. They went 11-2-1, and I can even check here what were their losses. They lost to another Suicune Gyarados and that Pikachu Oricorio deck I just showed you. Everything else they were mowing through. A lot of Flareon, a lot of Darktina. Probably not the best Suicune matchup, just because it's Suicune, and I don't really have a reason to say that other than it's Suicune, and Suicune sucks to play against for any new deck, it seems. But yeah, I mean, cool Gyarados list. I guess we didn't need any of the water Pokemon recovery. Just play enough basics and play Suicune as a supplemental attacker, and it can get the job done. So those are two very, very cool decks. Off-meta rogue decks starting to come into the format, and hopefully you guys enjoy playing them. If you're sick of playing the same old stuff like I often am, then there you go. You got some new stuff to try out. So that's going to be it for the video. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you enjoy all of the information I throw at you, the matchup spreads, the tech cards that you can play, whatever, everything I discuss, make sure you guys subscribe to the channel, like the video. All right, I will see you on the next one where maybe we'll talk about some more fringe decks and probably see some of you on stream. I really love streaming. It is a great time hanging out with you guys, so don't miss them. They're a lot of fun.